What's happening, everybody? Welcome once again. This is Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health. My name is Brent Axe. We're live here on the Syracuse Orange Basketball Facebook page, live on Twitter and YouTube as well. And we're coming off the heels of a 72-68 North Carolina victory over Syracuse at the JMA Wireless Dome. So Syracuse will fall to 13-8 on the season and 6-4 in ACC play. Your comments will be highlighted here shortly, but let's go right off the top here and call what we just saw. We saw an abomination of officiating. That was an absolute joke. Roger Ayers and his crew should be, I don't know, just shoot them to the moon at this point. I mean, that was an absolute joke of how much they got in the way in this game, how much they got wrong in this game, and how much they affected what was otherwise a terrific basketball game between Syracuse and North Carolina. Roger, get out of the way and let these guys play. And even in that sense, okay, make this make sense for me, okay? North Carolina went to the free throw line 23 times in this game. Syracuse went to the free throw line 3 times. That is absolutely ridiculous. Jesse Edwards' third and fourth fouls were jokes. I mean, I can just go through a bunch of them here, and this is not a biased Syracuse perspective by any means. Folks, ACC officiating this year has been a joke all around. I follow a lot of people that cover the ACC and college basketball, people around the league, people that cover the sport, and you just see it every single night. And we saw it come to play in this game tonight. Now, that doesn't excuse Joe Girard taking some bad shots down the stretch. That doesn't excuse Joe Girard in the inbounds pass. I mean, you don't do that play under the visiting basket like that. I think he made a mistake there. I mean, Joe had some clutch plays down the stretch too. He had some turnovers. It was kind of an all-over game for Joe. Judah Mintz, just like the Miami game, kind of all over the place, tries to play hero ball, but the foul they called there, so Judah's elbow comes across and hits RJ Davis in the face. He goes down for a few minutes in that situation. Not only do they call that a foul, which I guess you can because he made contact, he goes to his little TV again, which he did all night, and calls a flagrant one. I mean, that is absurd. That is not a flagrant one. I mean, it's a flagrant one if you go by letter of the law. That's going 31 in a 30, right? You don't have to call that a flagrant one. Why Roger Ayers and his crew thinks everybody tuned into that game or went to the JMA Wireless Dome to watch him blow his freaking whistle through the second half was an absolute joke. So what it cost, it didn't cost Syracuse the game. They made their own mistakes, and I want to be clear about that. But they were way too one-sided for a good part of the game. They let everything go in the paint, and you're watching Baycott battle Edwards, and you're watching two teams go back and forth, right? And then with about 13 minutes to go, they just decide, let's start calling everything on Syracuse. And you can't tell me there wasn't equal physical contact on the other side. So you're going to blow your whistle, blow it evenly, right? The fact that North Carolina had 20 more free throw attempts than Syracuse is such a joke. I can't even put it into words. It's absolutely inexcusable. The ACC has got to do something about this. Your product is being ruined on an almost nightly basis by these overzealous referees that think people are there to watch them. Get out of the way, call what you need to call, and let the game be played out. And I said it a minute ago. They can't even figure out what's going on out there. They're running over that little TV over there every 2 seconds because they don't know what they're calling or what they saw. Just really, really frustrating, as I'm sure you guys are. So I am going to go right into it here and just start highlighting comments left and right. I'm sure you guys are as fired up as I am about this. Let's go. Greg, the official sucks. Yeah, they did. Dave, another woulda, coulda, shoulda game. Matt, so close, just couldn't finish it. Awful officiating from Mike. And again, Judah Mintz, just like in the Miami game. What are you doing, Judah? The hero ball, just he blacks out everything else and just takes it in the paint and hopes for the best. And here people were. It wasn't as bad as tonight as the Miami game leading up to that, but that's not what you do in that situation. He's not learning, right? And he had such a great game other than that. I like the guts that he showed. Chris Bell had a great game tonight for Syracuse. So you can't have your point guard doing that. You can't. How many learning experiences are you going to have? Syracuse needs quad. In this case, would have been a quad 2 win. It would have been a quality win. Judah Mintz has to be smarter than that. So again, as bad as the officiating was, and as much as it affected this game, Syracuse had their own faults at the end, and Judah has just got to know better than that. As Lori says, checking in from California. Karina, a couple terrible calls by the officials there. I mean, the officials are going to be the dominant topic here as I'm scrolling through your comments here, and they were a joke. They were an absolute joke, and the ACC will do nothing about it. And that's probably the most frustrating thing about it is they're just letting their product be, watered down and ruined by these guys out there making completely either unnecessary calls, inconsistent calls. Richard, by letter of the law, that was a flagrant one. If you go by definition of flagrant one, but it's flagrant one in the same way that I could get jaywalking. Okay. If a police officer saw me crossing the street in a sense that I shouldn't be, right? You don't have to call it a flagrant one. And why Roger Ayers felt like let's just go over the little TV again to get this situation where it wasn't even TV Teddy. Where it was John Cale, where was, I'm trying to think of the refs from the past that you just hated to see in the building. I would have taken Higgins. I would have taken Burr. I would have taken any of those guys over Roger Ayers tonight and his crew just ruining this game. They ruined a great basketball game between two teams, that I am beyond frustrated. I think you could tell. Like, this drives me crazy. These are paid officials, and it stinks because what happens is this kind of trickles down. I think most people are smart enough. I think most people are rational enough. Like, don't yell at Little League refs. Don't yell at Pop Warner refs. Don't yell at high school refs. These people are your friends, your neighbors. Like, let's not do that. But these are paid professionals that are calling 3-4 games a week, and they're pulling this crap. Get out of the way and let two teams play a great basketball game. If Syracuse just went out there and lost to North Carolina tonight because they couldn't make enough plays and Carolina had the lead for the most part, Syracuse gets it back a few times in the second half. It was for a while there, despite what these refs were trying to do. A terrific basketball game. I love when Syracuse and North Carolina play because they play basketball. They go back and forth. It's fast-paced. It's good basketball to watch. Some of these teams that Syracuse plays, and look, that's their style, but, Virginia with their pack line defense and, when Pitt slogs it down and other teams in the ACC that feel like that's basketball. When Syracuse and North Carolina play, it's basketball, right? So get out of the way and let them do it. 23 free throws for North Carolina, 3 for Syracuse. Ron, you said it all right there. Scott, I'm with you, buddy. None of us can sleep right now. That is so darn frustrating. I can't even put into words. And by the way, I would have felt this way watching any game, right? It happened to be Syracuse, happened to be the team we talk about here. And it's not in the sense that it cost them a loss. Syracuse also cost itself a loss. Okay, we can't let that go. How much did Jim Boeheim defend Judah Mintz in the Miami game? And that was a succession of plays. I'm not saying he should have been out of the game. I'm not going there. But he didn't learn from the Miami game. And that's a shame because Judah mostly learns from his mistakes. And here's another big spot, huge opportunity, primetime game, ESPN. I think he really showed some stuff tonight. I think he was really impressive in a lot of ways tonight. But Syracuse just finds ways to lose these games. And you're just kind of dealing with what a freshman point guard is going to do in those spots. But look, Gerard, it's kind of a balance tonight as we look at some numbers here. You guys continue to go at it in the comments. I'll jump back in and highlight a few for you. The shame of it is Syracuse out-rebounded North Carolina, 35-30. This is the best rebounding team in the league. Syracuse did a terrific job on the boards. North Carolina only had 6 offensive rebounds. Are you kidding me? You hold Carolina to 6 offensive rebounds? Man, you got to take that because that's what they live on. But North Carolina also lives on going to the free throw line. And Roger Ayers and company just kept sending them there and sent Syracuse there 3 times. Utter joke. I haven't seen Boeheim's press conference yet, but I hope that Jim Boeheim goes to that press conference and destroys that officiating crew and John Wildhack slap a blank check on that podium that the ACC will fine you. I don't care what they do, how they do it. It's worth the fine for Boeheim to call out what happened in this game. It's going to sound like sour grapes and it's going to sound like something you can't do and not perfect. Forget it. Okay, do it. Call them out. It was ridiculous. But that's the shame of it. Syracuse really did what they needed to do. They hung in there. They started slow again. They got in a 15-6 hole, but then they overcame that. It was just a back and forth game after that. A back and forth game. So Carolina ultimately 14 of 23 at the free throw line. Syracuse 2 of 3. Carolina shot 26 of 58. That's 45%. Syracuse shot 51%. 29 of 57. Jesse Edwards did end up fouling out of this game, as we noted. Those last 2 fouls were a joke. So it was a mixed bag for Girard tonight. He had 18 points. He was 4 of 9 from three-point range. He had a huge 3 down the stretch where he shook Leaky Black out of his shoes. It was a great pump fake and shot, but the play on the out-of-bounds line, couple of threes. Joe, with about 5 minutes to go, heat checked himself, took a logo Joe shot. You can't do that. Like, he forced a few threes down the stretch that you absolutely cannot do. But how about Chris Bell stepping up with 15 points? How about Benny Williams? Now, when you look at the box score, he only has 4 points and 2 rebounds, but he had 2 very strong, athletic, aggressive plays, went to the hoop, so he showed some flashes of what he can do. You know, Judah led the team with 17 points. That's what I'm talking about. Like, the plays down the stretch cost him, but he had 3 steals. He did have 4 turnovers. The foul at the end, which, you know, we're disputing here, but he led he second on the team, I should say, with 17 points. Now, on the North Carolina side of things, I mean, you knew that Baycott was going to get his. He did not get a double-double, and you got to take that as a win. 18 and 8. Nance led the way. Nance played a great game, navigated the zone really well for North Carolina, played all 40 minutes. He scores 21 points, right? But, you know, Caleb Love had 15 points. He was hot from three-point range in the first half, not so much in the second half. We mentioned Davis, who's averaging 16 points per game. He only had 9, you know, a couple of free throws down the stretch for him. It just, all the numbers add up for Syracuse here. They earned this in a sense, gave it away with how Mintz decided to do that play, and, you know, with a lot of help from the officials. Frankly, as Matt notes here, that Mintz play was an easy block to call. By letter, his elbow was flagrant and knew it was going to be called, but it was a clear block. Atrocious. 20 more free throws. ACC is crap. They are. Brian, they are. I mean, just flat out ridiculous. And, you know, I have, for many post-game shows, radio shows, other places, talked about how ACC officials are not biased. They're just bad at their job, right? Because people say, oh, it's home cooking, the ACC is against Syracuse and all that. It's not that. They're just not good at their job. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this year. Maybe not to this extent, but please try and explain that, right? And, you know, look, I'm not at the Dome, but if I was there, honestly, I would be demanding that an official talk to somebody, a pool reporter, a beat reporter. You need to explain yourself. Okay, Jim Boeheim comes to the podium. Hubert Davis comes to the podium. How about Roger Ayers? You sit your butt in front of that podium and you try and explain how North Carolina had 23 free throws and Syracuse had 3. You can try. You will fail because you failed at your job tonight. Absolute joke. Absolute joke. I know I'm ranting about the refs, but it upsets me because it took away from what was a otherwise great play game between two teams. And they took away from the players on the court and how it should be decided with how they officiated that game. But look, Syracuse cost itself at the end. Greg notes it here. Hema struggled. You know, Jesse, you got to figure out what to do. He's got 4 fouls with 10 minutes to go, and you got to navigate that. Sometimes you take the risk, you keep him out there when he's got 4 fouls. Eventually he fouls out. By the way, that 5th foul was needed. That was actually a good call. Jesse had to make Nance earn that at the free throw line. I understand that 5th foul. That's what he's there to do. The 3rd and 4th fouls, putting him in that situation, that's where the officials took away in this game. As Tony notes here, JG3 should have let a ball go out of bounds, still up 1. And how many turnovers? That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. No question. As seniors got to know better. You don't chase it under the opponent's basket. Just let it go out and let the chips fall where they may. You had time to overcome that. I mean, he's hustling. He's aggressive. Sometimes, you know, you're just not thinking out there and you're reacting and trying to get the ball. And he was trying to kind of bat it back. It'd be one thing if he kind of had, you know, how guys will kind of grab the ball right at the line, kind of jump and have even a second or two to look for somebody and get the ball in, right in your face there. Woo! He couldn't, he was just kind of trying to bat it back in. So that's tough. That's tough because Joe had that huge shot down the stretch, had some big shots in the first half, but the scales were balanced between Joe big plays, Joe mistakes, unfortunately, in this game tonight. Better hope that Roger Ayers isn't here for the Duke game. Oh, boy. Mike says the refs didn't call an obvious intentional on the same guy a few plays before that on Mintz. These three refs are three of the worst in the league, and you just don't become a sixth guy in such a close game, and they did. I mean, they were the three blind mice tonight. Let's just be honest here. It's exactly what they were, and very, very frustrating. Let's see. Dale says, I hope this doesn't discourage them. Hopefully it lights a little fire under their butt because, look, this started a stretch of 3 straight games where you have either quad 1 or quad 2. So you go to Virginia Tech Saturday, that's a quad 1 game. That's a road game. Virginia's a quad 1 game, no matter what. Virginia's 13th in the net ranking. So when they come to the Dome on Monday, that's going to be a quad 1 game. You got 2 quad 1 games coming up. So will this kind of light a fire under their butt? And how you handle this is huge. How Judah Mintz yet again learns from this situation is huge. But, you know, he's got to, it's one of those situations where, like, you can't keep just going to class. You got to, like, earn the grade. He had to earn that grade tonight. And it's a shame because he had 17 points, really showed out tonight. If you guys didn't see, maybe you saw him sitting courtside there. So Elijah Moore is a 2024 recruit and has been offered an NIL deal by Adam Weitzman, who's, of course, you guys know Syracuse's big booster. There was a couple of, I'm so unhip. I don't, let me pull up the story here. I'm going to sound so old here, but I just don't know these guys. You got to forgive me. So sitting courtside with Adam was Elijah Moore, who is a 2024 recruit. He's got an NIL deal on the table from Weitzman per the new world we live in college basketball. And also sitting courtside were rappers Fabulous and A Boogie with the Hoodie. I told you, I'm going to sound like an old man. A Boogie with the Hoodie. Hey, go get them, man. I guess they're 2 famous rappers in the New York City area. I don't know. I'm still listening to the same music I listened to in high school. I'm a big grunge fan, big rock fan, so I'm not in tune with that. But they were courtside, and that's a big-time recruit. So the irony of the world we're in today, you can have a booster bring a recruit, sit him literally inches from Jim Boeheim, and Jim Boeheim can't even talk about him. Jim Boeheim can't even acknowledge his existence per recruiting rules. But NIL rules and everything else, yeah, come to Syracuse and do some charity work, right? Which these things do. I mean, can we just call a spade a spade? It's pay for play. This is pay for play, which is allowed now, by the way. You could pretend it's not allowed, but it is. That's exactly what it is. So, hey, Syracuse is in that game too. So a little interesting side plot from this one tonight. Al notes here that Brown got hacked on the putback basket. No call. We were +5 on the boards, as Jeff said. That really, really stings. If you can get not only in Carolina, but hold them to 6 offensive boards and be +5 overall, man, what a waste. What a waste in a lot of ways. Kevin says he still doesn't like the slow it down crap. They needed to speed it up a little, step up defensive pressure, speed North Carolina up, get in transition more to get easy baskets. The press was back out there today. And guys, once again, the press worked. You didn't like it, but it worked. It turned things around. Syracuse at one point after they turned on the press, I think they went on a 12-3 run, something of that nature. They're good at it. The problem is they have to keep doing it, right? That's the issue, is they keep getting themselves in situations where they're either behind or have to change the pace of the game, which, by the way, it's fine. If it's a different strategy, if you got a team that's getting too comfortable and too confident facing the zone, and you put a press out there to shake things up a little bit, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a necessity again, but Syracuse has a really high success rate of going in there, putting the press out there, and it works, right? Nicholas says second game in a row, he lost for the Qs for a highlight reel. Yeah, look, I'm not going to defend Judah Mintz in that sense. He had a great game up to that point. That just wasn't a good decision. Whether it was a foul or not, there's 2 separate conversations. Okay, the decision and the play, not good. It's the way he tried to challenge the defender. It wasn't the shot. He wasn't really looking for an open player. That wasn't the play. I admire the tenacity. I admire the will. I admire the confidence that he wants to be the guy, but that just wasn't the play. He didn't learn from his mistakes from the Miami game here. Man, so many comments coming in. I can barely keep up with you guys here. Pete says, love him, but Judah shows he's a freshman at the end of games. Chris says JG3 had 6 turnovers. He did. It was an equal balance on the scales between big plays, turnovers, and bad decisions for him as well. Lee says, built ourselves a deficit at the start again. This is why we need to start the 5 best players. No more, it doesn't matter. Benny looked good tonight. Brown, not really, but Brown needs to be in the starting lineup. Lee, I can't really push back on that now. If Syracuse is not starting well, then maybe you change the starting lineup, because what North Carolina had was enough of a cushion pretty much all game that built on that early lead. That's what kind of game it was. I mean, Syracuse got the lead. Carolina got it back, right? So eventually it paid off, but it took a long time to get there. They put themselves in a 15-6 hole. I couldn't believe this stat. So I talked to Brendan Marks this afternoon on my radio show, and he said that Caleb Love of North Carolina came into this game having missed more three-pointers, 101, than anybody had even attempted on this team. I think Davis was the second closest with 98 attempts. Love had 101 misses, but he hit a few early, just like Georgia Tech did, and it's just been the pattern. This is what teams do against Syracuse. So per switching it up to start the game and get people off to a better start, like, I can't disagree with that. The whole starting lineup doesn't matter thing. Maybe it does. And Malik Brown should start. And I think you can make the case that Justin Taylor could start. Now, Chris Bell had a great game tonight, but if he doesn't keep it up and is not consistent, I wouldn't be opposed to switching things up in that sense. You got to be flexible on that. When you're right, you're right. And I think you guys are getting close to right on that. Scott says Mintz had 17, but 7 of 19 shooting and just 2 assists to, I believe, 5 turnovers on the night. Judah, just please kick the ball to another shooter. Absolutely should have done that. Bernard with a great point here. Nance is North Carolina's Brown. Nance had a great game. He navigated the zone well. Terrific game for him. He's a terrific free throw shooter. He actually missed a couple of uncharacteristic shots for him. You know, free throws matter, right? But when one team gets to the free throw line 20 more times than the other, maybe I'm wrong about that, because they can only matter if you're going to call the game evenly at that point, right? Kelly says, you're incorrect on the foul. Let him go. Make the dunk. You have the ball with 20 or so seconds left with a tie score. For once, I disagree. And it's fine to disagree. It'd be a boring world if we all agreed on that sense. Let's see. Tony says there's 3 times at the end of the game that Judah has had the ball and nothing good. Yeah, I mean, Judah, somebody said it best earlier. He played like a freshman at the end of this game. Yeah, be careful with this one, guys. I know it's the internet here. Fill in the blank. The letters B and S come to mind, and I'll just kind of leave it at that, right? Oh my goodness, man. That's now, like we said, that's an opportunity that slipped away. It's January 25th. Just literally turned January 25th. Because we've gone from Tuesday into Wednesday. We're up late, baby, on the East Coast here. And Syracuse has 1 quality win on the board. 1. They have 7 left. 7 of their next 10 are quad 1, quad 2. Next 2 are quad 1 games. I mean, you want to talk about, like, your back squarely up against the wall in that department? You got now with 7 left, you probably got to win 5 of them just to even be in the conversation and still do some damage in the ACC tournament. And to have that right in their hands tonight and have a factor of some freshman mistakes, a Joe Girard mistake, and horrible officiating, have that one slip away. That's a tough pill to swallow at this point. Was that primetime Adam Shine behind the Syracuse bench? I don't think Shine was in town for this one. If he came to town, he didn't call me. I'm going to be upset. He did look like Adam, though, right? I'll tell Adam you guys said that. I'll get a kick out of that. Andrew says nobody had a statistically amazing game, but a bunch of guys had some amazing moments. I'm proud of how these guys gutted it out until the end. Nobody quit. Loved the game, not the result, but how they played it. Look, that's a fair point because these guys stuck with it. Jesse had a great game before he fouled out. I mean, the fouls weren't his fault. It changes how he plays the game, though, when he's got 4 fouls, right? So that's how officiating affects something like this. Chris Bell. How about Chris Bell tonight? You know, I noted the 15 points. He was 6 of 9, 3 of 5 from three-point range. He had 4 rebounds, which for him, you'll take. And he was actually pretty active trying to get to the boards. So shout out to Chris Bell. He had a great game. Jesse had 8 and 7, but as we mentioned, he sat out a chunk of the second half with foul trouble. I love the plays that Benny made when he was given the opportunity to play with 20 minutes tonight. Malik Brown, you needed more from him, but he did get 7 rebounds. You'll take that. Malik Brown, along with Jesse, led the team in rebounds. You know, Symir, Justin Taylor, and Hema had kind of spot play in this game. Justin Taylor's minutes have kind of gone down in the past couple of games. That's just based on matchups and just how things are flowing out there. I still think we're going to see Justin Taylor play, but it's interesting how that kind of played out lineup wise tonight. You need a little bit more from Malik Brown on the offensive end. You had the big tip in there down the stretch. 7 rebounds is nice, but you certainly needed a little bit more. I keep saying this, and I have to keep highlighting it. 23-3. Make it make sense. You can't. You cannot. There is no tangible, reasonable explanation for something like that. John says, love Jesse and what he's done to develop over the last 4 years, but he's got to get tougher in one-on-one situations. He's got to have that bulldog mentality to beat the best centers like Baycott. Jump ball was the only time I saw that tonight. I got to disagree with you in one sense, John. I mean, you're talking about challenging defenders in the paint. There was one play down the stretch where he was challenging Leaky Black, who's a terrific defender for North Carolina, but Jesse had that matchup, missed the shot. Yeah, Jesse chased down a 3-pointer on the wing. He did have some aggressive plays tonight, but just short of what he needed to be. But if you're telling me that Baycott had 18 and 8, I'm going to take that. As crazy as that sounds, I'm going to take that because that dude's averaging a double-double. He's in the short breath for the ACC Player of the Year. And if that's all he got on you tonight, you did your job. You honestly did. You got him into foul trouble. He had 4 down the stretch, right? But it was those 2, the 3rd and 4th foul on Jesse, that gave Baycott and company that advantage because that's what North Carolina does. They have that mentality, right? They get to the free throw line more than anybody in the ACC. They know how to do it. So once you send Jesse to the bench with 10, 11 minutes to go, I mean, that's when the game was over right there. Syracuse got back in it and certainly had their chances, but just giving way too much of an advantage there, especially considering the touch fouls that they had. Oh, interesting note from Jeff here. Boeheim stormed out of the press conference when asked why the team couldn't close out the last 2 games and lost by 4 in each game. Very frustrated Jim Boeheim tonight. Very interesting. I'll definitely be watching that one when we're done here. There you go. I don't blame him. I don't blame him for being frustrated. I mean, I'll have to see what kind of question it was and what led him to do that. I don't know if the officiating came up in the press conference. We haven't seen it because we've been on the show here. But there's Dave, too. Just showed on SportsCenter. Boeheim walked out of his presser after someone asked him a stupid question. Well, I wonder who that was. Yep, few of you noting this now. I'm just catching up with you guys. Boeheim doesn't like a question and walks out. Interesting. Okay, we'll have to see what that's all about and what the question was and what the situation was. Let's see. Brent, what do you think of tonight's game means for Elijah Moore? Don't think a loss versus a win means he doesn't come, but you just never know in today's world of recruiting. Now, John, I mean, he's sitting there with 2 famous rappers. He's sitting there courtside. It was a great crowd at the JMA Wireless Dome tonight. It was a great game, despite what we're talking about with the refs getting in the way. He makes his decision Saturday. So does it help that you kind of got one of the last opportunities to bring him in, put on a show for him? He's got an NIL deal on the table. I'm sure he's got others that are coming in, but Adam Weitzman's put it out there. He might make more than some of the coaches on the staff. I mean, that's kind of where we're at this point. So hopefully it worked other than the loss, as you noted here. There's our guy, Robbie. ESPN commentators refer to North Carolina as a possible 8 or 9 seed. If their projection remains in that vicinity, Syracuse is basically going to have to win every game to have a chance to make the tournament. If a team that could be in the top 4 of the league has that low of a projection, Syracuse in the ACC has their work cut out for them. That is a great point, as always there, Robbie. No, I don't think it was Andy Katz, right? Andy wasn't there tonight on that one. I'll have to go back, watch the presser, and see what the question was at that point. Stupid or thought-provoking to get Boeheim to walk out? You know, Boeheim's frustrated like that. It could take anything to get him to walk out. Jim says you have to check the monitor on obvious out-of-bounds calls. Whatever. They went to that little TV of theirs way too much tonight. You want to check that one, fine. There were 4 or 5 calls that went through a little TV, and they didn't need to. It just ridiculous. This is a problem all around college basketball. Pat Forty tweeted about this. Look at people that cover college basketball. They talk about this all the time. Officials are just wait. And look, to be fair, they put a lot on the officials' plates, right? They go to replay because they have to. They call the flagrant one because that's the way it's described. Again, like I think it's like letter of the law kind of stuff. You can, cite me for jaywalking. It doesn't mean you have to, right? So they put a lot on their plates. I understand that, but Roger Ayers is kind of known for this. There's a reason certain officials get certain reputations. TV Teddy, Burr, Higgins, Cal. I mean, John Cal is actually a pretty good ref, right? It just stinks that we don't get our own Pat Driscoll to officiate Syracuse games because he's the best in the game. And he has officiated some Syracuse games, but typically they don't put him on Syracuse games just because, you don't want an official from the city you're in to be officiating a game. But can we just petition to have more Pat Driscoll? Shout out to the Bishop Ludden alum to call and officiate more Syracuse games. And we'll end on Mike's note here. Just call it both ways. Just call it both ways, right? John, you're welcome, man. You're welcome. My pleasure to be here. A little tougher on these late nights, but that's what Mountain Dew is for, right? Thank you guys for being here. And it's late on the East Coast, but, wherever you're watching tonight, could be, you could be watching in Hawaii. What time is it there? 5 o'clock, right? So no matter the time, we're here after every Syracuse game doing the thing. Off the top of my head, friends, I don't remember what time the Virginia Tech game is. So let me check that so we could tell you when to meet again here. While I'm looking that up, a reminder that we have Orange Weekly Thursdays streaming on these same channels where we get together and kind of look at all issues from Syracuse sports. That's about noonish on Thursdays. Virginia Tech, 7 o'clock tip Saturday night. So we'll be back here Saturday night on these same channels doing this very thing, talking to you, doing some post game, hopefully not talking about yet another failure by ACC officials. But ultimately, Syracuse loses. They fall to 13-8. Carolina wins this one 72-68. That is your final from the JMA Wireless Dome. Thanks for the therapy, Julie. Same to you guys. It's good for me to vent about these things too. That's what we do here. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health. And you guys enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you Thursday, Orange Weekly, noon. We'll talk to you Saturday after the Virginia Tech game right here. Same bad time, same bad channel. Have yourself a great rest of your week, everybody.